put the questions from your comments. So, and the efficacy is the top one from Hattie's research. So we did all this work. Abigail, her work on the how's it going to affect everybody went within the research to the question under vision. So that's where that question came from. And thank you to our two candidates for your answers. So Aaron, you're up. Oh, Abigail, question number 2. So this will be your accountability question on the high academic standards.
When planning for a high-class education, research must be used in the decision-making process. Can you give an example of how current research from John Katie's latest studies on student expectations and feedback should be or could be seen in our AACPS classrooms today?
Do you want me to take that question
Yes,
first, or are we alternating?
It's going to go to Latoya first, and if you'd like to refer, so just so you know, the candidates did get these questions this morning at around 10 a.m. along with the research, just this morning at 10 a.m. So they were given the research and they were given the questions. So if you want to refer to the research, we'd be very impressed.
Well, around my busy schedule of seeing clients and back-to-back meetings all day and getting this email at 10 o'clock, I did get a chance to prepare, and I did look at the research, and I thank you for sending it over. If I'm going to be honest with you, when I looked at this, Maria, I appreciate it, but I feel like parental involvement should be at the top of this list. If I'm going to be honest with you.
I'm with you.
I'm sorry, I'm a mother. I'm not in the middle. I'm at the top, okay? I'm number 1. And I know that most parents feel that way about their kids. But parental involvement, I've already made my point about that. But I want to just touch on student expectations, okay? So that's number 2. And I'm going to give you an example of some work that I've done over the years. So I do group therapy with high-risk teenagers, right? And the one thing I can tell you that has been a common theme over the years with at-risk youth is that they say they resent their parents or the adults in their life for not setting expectations, for not providing them with the direction, with the instruction, left them out to make decisions on their own, left to their own devices where their brain's not fully developed, where they're not capable of making mature, responsible decisions, and they resent the adults in their life. We are failing our kids because we are not giving them standards and expectations and setting up a foundation that's going to allow them, as they grow into their own, to be able to make responsible decisions. That is our job as parents, as adults. So when they come into the school building, there should be a set of expectations. And if they're not meeting those expectations, I'm sorry, I'm a person that I believe accountability is necessary. Because it's not fair to have students in the building that aren't meeting those expectations and they're being disruptive to the teachers that want to do their job and to the other students that actually want to be in the building and learn. So those expectations should be set in every environment for every child, whether it be at home, whether it be in the school building. So student expectations is number 1. Accountability, all kids need it, and it's our job, it's incumbent upon us as the adults in their life to establish that. And we need policies that's going to hold kids accountable for their actions. A lot of kids right now are not being held to a certain standard, and they're allowed to behave in a way that's unacceptable in our schools. So, and I'm speaking because of the fact that I know that all too well, okay? Whether as a teenager, as an adult, okay? We all have expectations, we all have responsibilities, and there has to be some level of expectations and standards for all of us to be successful.
All right, well, I think we should look at the research as it is, not as we want it to be. And what the research tells us is that we want high-quality teachers, we want real-time feedback, we want instruction, but we also want programming around that. And so I've lived this for now 5 years, and one great example I can give, again, an interaction between the school system, the Maryland General Assembly, the greater community, is the implementation of Blueprint for Maryland's Future. So I lobbied hard for this legislation, and I still support it. And it's going to just transform how we do education in Maryland. And it tackles everything from early childhood education to career and college readiness. and a bunch of things in between. And so we need direct instruction, and we need good teaching, and we also need to understand that teaching looks different for each and every kid. Not every kid comes to us in the same way, and they all need different things. And the blueprint helps us to magnify that. I want to go back to a couple points though I heard before that were a little confusing to me. So I'm your sitting board member, and I listen to teachers, parents, students all the time. What I don't hear a whole lot about school safety. What I do hear is a lot about teacher pay, because we can't enact this research and do the things we need to do in the classroom unless we have high quality teachers that we can recruit, pay well, and retain. So I raised teacher pay just to talk in terms of how we characterize it. We unfroze 5 steps that were frozen in the last economic downturn, and then we removed the docked steps that teachers. So if you were, say, had 5 years of teaching experience, you used to come in. They used to take 1 to 3 steps away to make it equitable because the other teachers weren't getting their steps because of the economic downturn. Well, so we erased 8 of those. So at least our teachers can attempt to live and work in the same county. And when we talk about the county executive's budget hearings, those are great, and we should all go to them, and we should all use our voice. I was at the school board's budget hearing because it was on the same night as that, and heard from teachers up and down the county about pay predominantly, because we're still not doing enough and we can do so much better. And about increased access for things like robotics. So listening, if you really want to advocate for what you want in the school system, come to an AACPS board hearing. Thank you.
So this one has to deal with policy. It's kind of a 2-part question. AI has joined our society whether we like it or not. How can we safely, ethically implement it for the student-teacher use in our schools? Is there a way we can incorporate AI to our schools and use policy to serve our students?
I love this question. It's really timely. I just got done with a 4-day conference with the National School Boards Association in DC, and they talked a lot about AI. So, like the question said, whether we like it or not, it's here. We can't be scared of it like we were scared of the internet in the early 90s, thinking like, oh my gosh, it's gonna make our kids crazy, it's gonna ruin everything. No. AI is here, and it'll be here to stay, and if we're not training our kids in this, in the good parts of AI, ethically and safely, as the question stated, then they won't be set up to be in the working world of the future. And so we don't have direct policies around AI yet, so just to go back to what the school board is and isn't, the school board does policy, oversight, governance. The superintendent, his role is daily school operations and implementing things. So like the board is the what, the superintendent is the how. We have our own lanes. We don't swerve from those lanes. We stay in our lane. And so so we will have policies coming down the road on this because we're going to need them. We're going to need them to make sure that our kids aren't using AI to cheat. The school handbook and the code of conduct remain in effect throughout all of that. It's the same thing as you can't use Google to write a paper. You're not going to be able to use ChatGPT to do it either. Not a thing. But where it is very useful right now is in the creative space, in the art space, in the music space. But we do know that in order to get beautiful things out of AI, you have to be able to think critically, again, Hattie's research. And you have to be able to think critically, and you have to be able to know what you want to get out of it. So the inputs and the descriptions and the things that you need to know how to think critically. You need to know how to be a good writer in order to get what you want out of AI. And so I see this as something exciting, something not to be scared of, and yeah, it's absolutely something that's going to be front and center in terms of policy going forward. But until then, students can't get it twisted, can't use it to create an outline, write a paper, that kind of thing. You know, still has to be your own work, your own research. Yeah.
Okay, now I guess I'm gonna probably show my age, because when I first heard the term AI, I instantly thought Allen Iverson, okay? So, if you didn't know anything about basketball, okay? Back in the mid-90s, it was all about AI, that was our AI. However, I can say, you know, I really appreciate how technology has come along, so I do agree with my opponent that AI is amazing, okay? I'm from an era where we were excited when we had spell check, you know, or Grammarly, you know, so where we are now is that we can use AI to be able to kind of, you know, maybe formulate our thoughts or help us sound a little more eloquent when we write. I mean, there's so many different creative ways to use it. But when I think about students in particular, oops, sorry about that. But when I think about students in particular, I think about how we assess and do intervention. So I'm going to give an example when it comes to students with learning disabilities, for example. AI has the capability, it can have the capability to be able to assess the needs of children early on and provide earlier interventions, because we know that children with disabilities, they have a better outcome if they get the interventions early. So technology has the ability to do that. And I know that because when I do assessments back in the 90s, when I started in my career, a lot of it was subjective. A lot of it was us asking questions and you know, making a decision based on that. But we have the opportunity now to use science and technology to be a little more, to know exactly what we're looking for, being a little more pointed and using the interventions needed. Obviously, there are going to be policies that we're going to have to develop around that. What are the interventions? What is the educational content that we're going to use to be able to meet the developmental needs of each student? Another thing that I think is going to be important, obviously, is AI training for educators. So there are a lot of educators that are older than me that are probably going to need the training in order to be able to use it effectively. But not just effectively, bottom line is that we have to use AI ethically. So if there are policies going to be around it, and if we're going to use it because it's here to stay, is that we have to use it in an ethical manner.
The next question deals with community leadership. It's also a two-part question. Please describe what motivates you to serve on the board and how you plan for community engagement. Give specific current examples of what you brought here tonight and how you plan on continuing to lead the community through engagement.
What you need it again?
You want to get?
Do you need the question again?
No, I do not.
Okay.
No, I just had to process the question. So this question is a little personal for me. Why am I here today? You know, I live in Severna Park, beautiful home, beautiful kids, you know, beautiful husband. We'll be celebrating 22 years of marriage on Valentine's Day.
All right.
I'm proud of that. Okay? But the thing is that I'm more like the kids down in Fort Meade or Annapolis City, or kids in other parts of the community that are not being served the way that our kids in the Broadneck community, our kids in the Severna Park area are. And that's why I'm here, because this seat does not just represent Severna Park, it represents all the kids across the county. And I want kids who grew up like me, who look like me, who had to go through the circumstances that I went through to be able to say, you know what, yeah, I grew up in Brooklyn Park, but I got a home in Severna Park. Yeah, I grew up in Bywater, but I now own a home in the Broadneck Peninsula. That's what I want for every kid. But in order for us to get them there, they have to be prepared. We have to prepare them. Every kid has the opportunity and the ability to succeed, but it's incumbent upon us as the adults to get them there. So that's why I'm here. But when you talk about community leadership, you know, I can say that there are a lot of things that I've done in this community that I'm very proud of. I've done Leadership in Arundel. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the program. I think every leader who's running for office should do leadership in Arundel because it prepares you to understand every facet of this county and the needs, what's good, what's not good. It teaches you how to strategize, how to make things better, better improvements in our communities. So not only am I a graduate of leadership in Arundel, I'm the best class, 2018 by the way, but in addition to that, I was their 2020 distinguished graduate for my leadership in Arundel County. Back in 2022, I won the Black Legislative Award for Community Excellence in our county. Not only do I do work in Anne Arundel County, I do work across the state. And in 2023, just last year, I was a nominee for the Small Minority-Owned Business of the Year in the state of Maryland. My leadership, and I don't do this for awards. Those awards come as a result of my passion and the effort and the work that I put in. So that's why I'm here, and that's the leadership I'll bring to the Board of Ed.
All right. Well, like I said, I am a lifelong volunteer. It's something I've always felt called to do, called to serve. And so my volunteer career started when I was 11. I volunteered for Red Cross. I've put in many, many years of volunteering with a huge variety of organizations. Was the 2017 ACLU of Mississippi's Volunteer of the Year when I lived in Jackson, Mississippi. And if living in Jackson was great, but if that doesn't get you off the sidelines and into the game, I'm not sure what would. So when I moved here, this was just an extension of what I've always done. I've always been a volunteer in my kids' classrooms. I throw math backs in the hallway. I read books to them, and I've always felt called to serve. I do have a huge list of accolades, including from Leadership in Arundel, but I don't do it for the accolades at all. I do it for our kids. I'm here for our children. That's why I ran in 2018. That's why I serve. I continue to lead and serve as I've always promised I did since going back to that first campaign. So I want to close opportunity gaps, which we've worked towards doing as your sitting Board of Ed member for the last 5 years, to continue to support our teachers and our paraprofessionals and our secretaries and our custodians and our food and nutrition service workers, so that they can give their best to our kids because they deserve it. So I wanted to run again to continue that work. One of the most important decisions I've made in my time as Board of Ed member for this district is hiring a new superintendent. We didn't like where we were and the trajectory we were going, and we made a unanimous decision to hire Dr. Mark Bedell, and he's amazing. And so if you didn't meet him in one of his 16 listening and learning tours, he's very accessible too. So reach out to him, schedule an appointment with Joan, his scheduler, and talk to him some. But I'm here for the kids. I'm here because what I see going on around our country, I'm not liking. I don't believe in censorship. I don't believe in book bans. I don't believe in curriculum rewrites. I don't believe in omitting of historical facts, and you shouldn't either. And so I trust our experts, our media specialists, our teachers, our administrators. This is why we hire excellent people, train them, and want to keep them here. And so that's why I want to run and serve out a full second term and serve this community. I don't believe in book bans. I don't believe in censorship. I don't believe in omitting of historical facts. Omitting, yeah, or rewriting history. I don't. Yeah, you should. None of us should. Yeah. So yeah, there we go.
This question deals with the board and superintendent relationships. Dr. Bedell's listening and learning tours provided a great deal of feedback from various stakeholders. Can speak about two big ideas that grew from your community's comments and what you specifically learned from them?
Does everybody need that again?
What's that?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Nice and loud and slow.
So Dr. Bedell's listening and learning tours provided a great deal of feedback from the various stakeholders. Can you speak about two big ideas that grew from your community's comments and what you specifically learned from the data?
Absolutely. So, as your sitting Board of Ed member with a brand new superintendent, I went to many of his listening and learning tours. He listened to tens of thousands of parents and students over multiple months, and it was great. I've not seen anything like it, and it just speaks to how much he cares about his job and about this community, about serving all of our kids, and so yeah, it was just wonderful to be part of that, and a lot came out of it. So I wrote some notes. So these are things that came out directly from the listening learning tours, from the community, from listening to parents and students and teachers. So the reorg in the central office, that came from that listening, all those listening and learning tours. And so we've seen that borne out. That's begun. The second phase of that is underway and will be implemented in July. Transitioning to the science of reading, finally. So we didn't, before when we had Dr. Bedell's predecessor, we didn't qualify for the science of reading grants because we were doing it wrong here. We were sold, a previous iteration of the board was sold on some curriculum that didn't meet the needs of our students, and so we didn't even qualify for some of those grants. So now that we are implementing the science of reading, we're getting those grants from the state. That's going to help our kids up and down the county, and so that was another thing that came directly out of the learning and listening tours. Reimagining and redesigning not just our special education services, but our services for the gifted and talented. So when we talk about equity, we talk about not just giving kids like a pair of shoes, right? Like everyone gets a pair of shoes. No, we want every kid to have a pair of shoes that fit. And so all boats rise with the tide. We need to help our kids who are struggling, but we also need to further challenge our gifted and talented students too. To get us from good to great, as Dr. Bedell likes to say. So it was another one, and then also this just speaks to being an inclusive school district that supports its diverse population. Is all of those new Facebook pages and all the different languages that came out of those listening and learning tours. So we have Facebook pages in Urdu and Vietnamese and Chinese. There's a few others. Definitely the Spanish one took off too. Just really important to be sure that we're reaching all of our families, which also helps with engagement as well, because they need to be just involved in education just like every other parent does. And so those, and so much more. Those are just a flavoring, just a smattering of what came out of the listening and learning tours. But so yeah, I think that answers the question. Thanks so much.
I just want to comment on the question you had asked. You were like, what is it that you want to, okay? So what I don't believe in is teaching kids what to think and not how to think. What I don't believe in is taking academics out of education, because that is what's happened, okay? Dr. Bedell has been with us for a year, so we don't have a lot of pattern or trend under his tutelage, but I will say over the past 5 years, we've had a decline in just about every area in our schools, okay? There has been a decline in student performance. There has been a decline in kids consistently going to school. There has been an increase. The only increase that we've really seen is an increase in crime, okay? So if we want to look at the numbers and break it down, you know, I heard Dr. Bedell say in just a meeting last week, he said we were once one of the top ranked schools in the state of Maryland. He said now we're mediocre. We're basically middle of the road. And that's to put it gently, because the bottom line is we are in the bottom half, okay? I'm a taxpayer and I'm a mother, and I don't like those numbers. I don't like that math. And I hope that all of you understand how important that is for you and your communities. When people move to the Broadneck Peninsula, when they move to Severna Park, they're moving here because of the quality of the schools, because of the quality of the communities. If we lose that, then we're losing everything that we work so hard for to provide our kids with. The one thing I want to say specifically, if you want to look at your numbers here at Broadneck High School, this is your backyard, okay? My son started elementary school, well, he was born in 2010, okay? So when I moved here, Anne Arundel was great. So when we looked at Broadneck High School's numbers, in 2010, your math scores were at 98% proficient. Okay, here we are, this is, as 2021 shows, that you guys are barely at 60%. Okay, you in your own school went from 98 to 61% in the past 11 years. When we talk about reading and test scores, in 2010, Broadneck High School was at nearly 95% of your kids reading and doing language arts proficiently. Now it's below 80%. I'm too competitive to accept these numbers, okay? This is not acceptable to me. We have been mediocre, and the decline is going to continue further if we have 4 more years of the same thing. Okay, it's not working. We need someone who's going to come in and focus on academics and get our schools back to the basics.
I want to rebut that with some real data. I don't know what your source was, but let's just talk about Maryland report card data.
The fake made-up report.
Let's talk about Maryland report card data. This goes for all 24 LEAs. So in 2018,
Your meeting.
right?
It's your
2018,
meeting. It's your meeting.
The 2018-2019 school year, and I was seated in November of 2018. We were 13 of 24 in elementary school, 11 of 24 in middle school, 12 of 24 in high school. So I don't know when we were top, but it was way before any of us had children in the school system. And we're gonna get back there. We're gonna get back there under Dr. Vidal and become great. But in 2022-23, Maryland report card data just released 13 of 24 in elementary school. So status quo. We got a little bit better, 8 of 24 for middle school, and high school, 14 of 24. So that is real data from the Maryland report card website. So just so we're looking at apples, we're not looking at niche or grade schools or whatever. So am I okay with mediocrity? Absolutely not. But over the last 5 years, we went from a fully appointed to a fully elected board. We went through a national pandemic when we all suffered, all of us. And then we just got a new superintendent who isn't afraid to look at the data, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and take us from good to great. So that's the real data, MarylandReportCard.gov.
I just want to say that the pandemic speaks for itself, and the decisions that were made as a result of our board leadership. Yes.
Yep.
I'm gonna say something. I'm just so grateful we have 2 candidates running, because remember I said I got a little bit political? I was trained by, this year, if you saw my